So on my way back to Samargol for this fourth episode of Let's Play Storm of Zehir, I ran into a special map encounter. The special map encounters are blue rather than the usual yellowish color, and this particular one is one that I'll deal with later. It's actually a fairly hard fight, and we're not ready for it. So I'm just going to head back to Samargol, and I'll meet you there with Sasan. So here's Sasani, and you hand in the quest that gives you some XP. Here's more. You hand in the XP, and you get, or sorry, the evidence. And since we found everything, we get more money and more XP. And Ozzy here is kind of the manager, and he wants you to do some side stuff, which we've already done because we already went over Rastan to sell this stuff. And here we go. And he tells you about trade bars, and you can turn in trade bars for gold, and he'll pay you for them. We will eventually want to start hanging on to trade bars, but for now they're just money waiting to happen. Now that we can talk to Ozzy, we can also buy recipes from him. I'm going to just buy all of the ones on this screen. I may not use them, but the recipes are cheap compared to most things, and so it's just worth having them. Okay, so there's all the recipes. Now, we can continue on with sort of the main quests of the game, but at this point we can also get started on a couple of side quests. Vidinia is our big side quest girl here. And so I will ask her what you do here, and you mention tasks, and yeah. She wants you to go kill this boar, and it's a fairly simple sort of, more or less a fetch quest, except you just have to kill something to fetch it. We're also going to make a pit stop at the tavern here. Since we gained a level and we've used all our spells, we need to rest up and get those back so that all of our spellcasters in our party, which is basically everybody, can do more. The first time you stop here to rest, it's free. After that, it costs 50 gold, which is not very much. And there's some, backstory about, the time of troubles and dead gods and whatever. Don't worry about it. So we're just going to head back out onto the main map and go do this little fetch quest for Vidinia. I'll meet you on the map. So you notice that even though we went into town, the special encounter is still there. I'm still not going to mess with them. They are fairly annoying. So here's another random item. And you'll see this boar here that Vidinia wants us to kill shows up on the map as a special encounter. And here's a random, just wandering enemy. In this case, it shows an encounter level of 5. Since we're all about level 5, that's even. And if you're fighting things that are even, you get fairly good XP. You shouldn't see anything above and about an encounter level 8 around here, and I tend to avoid most of the random enemies. The only ones that I'll specifically fight are Batiri and will-o-wisps. Batiri because they're easier than they should be. They're encounter level 8, and they're about as hard as encounter level 5 enemies. And they also drop cargo, which we need for trade bars. And will-o-wisps consistently drop an item that allows you to make the highest level charisma cloak, which we'll need for a couple of our characters. So we want to kind of hang on to those. There's also some money to be made there, and they're fairly easy. So we'll fight them when we have an option, but we won't see them for a little while. Alright. If you have a ranger, you can sneak up on this guy. We don't, so we're just going to have to fight him. So I just queued up a couple buffs there and cast those out, and then charge into the fight. Now, as you might have noticed with what happened with our little animal friend there, this guy is actually fairly vicious. And I am going to use some spells on him just because I can. And it automatically gives you the item in your inventory. So we could go back to town now and hand that quest in, but I'm actually going to do something else first. So I'll meet you back out on the map once I heal up. So here we are back out on the map, and I'm going to head back down towards our favorite shipwreck yet again to see what I can find, and I'll meet you down there. So it turns out we have to go back into town. I forgot we have to talk to Sasani again first. She tells you that the captain is missing, and so we have to go find the captain. So we have to do that before we go down to visit the shipwreck again. We are also just going to hand in this quest. And she has another quest, which was just to go find an item. Vidinia's quests are fairly boring. They're all fetch quests, but they tend to take you to areas you sort of want to go to anyways, so might as well. So I'll meet you back down by the shipwreck. We don't actually go in the shipwreck. So here we are at the shipwreck, and as you look at the map, there's a new location that's available, which is Stone Knives Tribe. So we're going to head in there. Now this is actually one of the harder fights in the game. Well, not harder fights in the game, but it's not a trivial fight because there's not a lot of space to spread out and get everybody organized. This is where having lots of archers is suddenly very important, because without it you get sort of swarmed and you can't really make a line. I probably actually won't even summon the dinosaur in here because there's just not enough space. Now, every time you go off the map or back to the world map, any spells that are cast on your characters are removed. So you can't really cast any spells and get buffed up ahead of time because they will just disappear. What you can do is if you cast spells that affect your equipment, those don't go away. So for those, like magic weapon and things like that, if you cast those, they will stay for whatever their normal duration should be. You can't really make big use of that, but it is more useful than just having to recast all buffs at the start of each fight. So if you have buffs like that, be sure to use them. Even the bard spells you have to recast. I'm going to cast some buffs and be right back. And here we go. Now you notice that sleep didn't work very well on these guys, and they have poisoned weapons, so you really, well, that didn't work so well. Now you'll see he's at -2 out of -19, so when he hits -19 he'll be actually dead as opposed to just injured. And I'm going to have her healer's kit herself. If I could get rid of some of these guys right in my face, that would probably be help. I'll have her healer's kit again. And then I'll have Napro cast just a basic healing spell. Since he's on the back lines, he doesn't. If he's not at full health, that's not a big deal. Okay. So I'll heal up and be right back. Now there's another big fight in here, and since I have an opportunity to cast all my buffs, I will. This is not the easiest area, just because the enemies here are too high to be cast sleep on, and you really don't have enough space to do much more than just fight what's right in front of you, unless you have a bow. Okay, we're all buffed up, and it's time to shake some cats up on the monster burgers. Once again, I want to sort of lead with this character, and I'm going to have her call her animal companion right sort of in the middle of the area. You can talk your way out of this fight if you really want to, but the enemies actually have some good drops, so it's worth killing them. So they try to claim that they're really not that bad, and the captain is telling you, you know, they are pretty that bad. Yeah, so we're just going to fight them. Well, that was easier than I expected. Anyway, we'll be right back with the next video and let Captain out of her cage and then head back to town.